Here we go, this 4 o'clock hour. Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, played with Washington in the NFL. Sideline reporter for Baylor Radio joins us, and he's been a mainstay of what we've done throughout the year. Appreciate his insight right there, watching it firsthand on the sideline. Ricky, thanks for your time with Craig and Paul. David Smoak. You've seen Oklahoma, and you've seen them at their best. You've also seen Baylor hammer them a couple of times under Art Briles. But have you ever seen them just beat them up like they did defensively in that game on Saturday?
No, I really haven't. I guess the closest that we've seen to that would have been that Thursday night game. That was the blackout. I thought we were really physical that night. But when you strictly go to the lines of scrimmage on the defensive and the offensive side, no, I've never seen us do what we did Saturday. And I tell you, I just about halfway through the second quarter, even though the score didn't indicate it at the time, I told the guys next to me, you know what, I think we're just better. And I know Saturday we were better. I don't know about every Saturday, but Saturday we were better than Oklahoma.
Ricky, one of the things that made them better was that even though they left, you can't leave 20 points on the field potentially against Oklahoma, and they did. And then Oklahoma never made them pay for it because Baylor just reacted like, all right, well, it's just time to go out and get a stop.
That's right. And Paul, I tell you what, the one that was the killer to me is when RJ fumbled on the 15, because at that point we were moving the ball really well, and I thought there was no doubt we were going in to score. Missed a field goal, and RJ Sneed's made as big a plays as anybody that we've had the last couple of years. So I felt really bad for him. He took a pretty good shot and right on the football and lost it. But you're right. Won the game 27-14. Could have easily been 10 more points on the board. That, you know, you hate to say it, that could have been a 2-3 touchdown game with just a break here or there the other way.
So, Ricky, it wasn't a big day in terms of statistics for wide receivers. Oklahoma's got shut down by the Baylor defense. And for Baylor, Gary Bohannon just didn't throw the ball a whole lot. But when he did, RJ had a big first down catch later on, kind of making up for that fumble earlier. But Aranda highlighted their blocking and how effective they were in that regard. What kind of gains have you seen from the likes of Strada and Thornton and Sneed when it comes to that element of their game?
Well, I tell you what, Craig, I'm going to back up. I think if anybody would have told me, you, or anybody listening that before that game, guys, you're going to throw for 117 yards.
Yeah.
If you would have told me that, I would have said, we're about to get our butts kicked.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it turned out, because we ran for 296. But I can tell you, when Gary Bohannon ran the touchdown in on the far sideline on the student side, Tyquan Thornton had his guy blocked 3 yards deep into the end zone. I watched it. I was watching specifically him in that instance because I thought we might be going to him over the top because they were in the press coverage. But he blew that guy off the line of scrimmage 2 or 3 yards deep into the end zone. Gary scored right behind him. And we've seen RJ do it all year long. These receivers block. They do it hard. They don't mind doing it. And, it's kind of going back into the old era when I was playing and you were just expected to do it. I think we had gotten away from that to a certain extent, but not these guys. They played their rear ends off even though they weren't getting the ball that often. But the catches they made were critical, just like you're talking about RJ making that catch, huge catch down the field on third down. Tyquan had the big play on third on the slant inside. They still made big plays on the outside going in, but just not what I don't think any of us expected, because OU's strong point was against the run, not the pass.
So they play Kansas State in Manhattan. You've seen RG3 lose there. You've seen some good teams lose there. Baylor, one of their best memories ever was the 2012 team that beat Kansas State when they were ranked number 1 in the country. But that is a tough place to play. It's not a rabid environment, but it's just a hard place to play. Ricky, can you kind of give us an idea how difficult it can be?
Yeah, it's really loud. That stadium hosts 50,000, but they kind of surround you. They remodeled that stadium. It's really a nice place, and they're good fans. They're just loud. There's not as obnoxious as some that I've seen, but they're really good. It's really loud, And I can tell you when it gets loud, if you let them get momentum and they start scoring early and they get up and they start running that grinded out offense, it is hard to come from behind and beat those guys. And I tell you the other thing about this, I don't think I've ever seen a 4:30 kickoff. That is a really unusual time to kick off. You'll play the first half with daylight, second half in the dark, and I think that's a factor. Somebody might disagree with that, but I can tell you I've played before, and on the road at night is a tough environment, particularly with this crowd. And remember, guys, K-State's won 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. They win this game, they're 5-3 in the league, just like we are. They've got a lot to play for.
Ricky, you were down on the sideline. Obviously, this is what you do, but you've been in a lot of sidelines. That, at the end of the game, was one of the strangest things I've probably ever seen when it comes to storming the field. Then everybody have to get off so they can kick a field goal. What were you doing at the time, and how did you navigate through all that mess?
Well, I was trying to get out of the way. I mean, I could see across the field that the students were already sitting on the edge of the first row up on the concrete barrier. So I knew they were coming, but I didn't look behind me is the problem. And there were people flying from our side back onto the field. And I'm thinking, God, these kids are crazy. And I look up and there's people my age out there. And I said, well, they're really crazy. Somebody's going to get hurt. But no, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I would not have been surprised if there had been a 15-yard penalty, but before we get to it, I did not disagree with kicking the field goal, obviously. And speaking of that, to have a coach that thought that far ahead, to be in that situation with 3 seconds to go, and in the middle of all the chaos, remember it, to kick that field goal, don't tell me Oklahoma wouldn't have done that if they would have thought about it. I'm not sure they would have thought about it, though.
Ricky, Gary Bohannon, we saw him unleash the legs on Saturday, over 100 yards rushing, most of it taking place in the second half. And Aranda said that was something they were preparing for other teams, and they were looking back at some of their defensive efforts and going, geez, these quarterback runs are killing us. And they realized, like, well, Gary can do all that, and he could probably do what these guys are doing, but even better in some cases. And it just kind of, I don't know, I think it's something they tinkered with, but they finally saw him running with the confidence level and the security level and all of that. Just your thoughts on Bohannon's running ability and what you saw on Saturday and what you think that means for this offense moving forward.
Well, Craig, I know what it means for Kansas State. They're spending all this week trying to figure out how to stop it. And that adds another dimension that teams have to game plan for, because you know Gary can throw the ball, and he's going to continue to do that. But as a radio crew, we've been wondering when Gary's going to take off, when he's going to go. There's been a lot of opportunities there for quarterback-type draws, or even in the passing game where we thought he had lanes to take off with the football, and he didn't pass any of those up Saturday. He took off with it. When the blocking would break down, he would take off. He ran the quarterback draws. He ran the intentional quarterback sweeps, and he ran them very, very well. And now think about what K-State has to worry about. They've got to worry about Abram Smith, Treston Ebner. They got to worry about the guys outside, R.J. Sneed, Tyquan Thornton, Estrada, all these guys out there. If Fleeks is back, all the speed outside. And now they've got to worry about, well, we're going to rush the passer, and all of a sudden it breaks down and a quarterback goes for 11 yards on a 3rd and 10. Those are backbreakers. So I think this is a added element to that offense that is really going to pay off down the line, just like it did Saturday.
Ricky, you get a chance to get him for a very short amount of time going into halftime. And I know there was one game in which he just went right through you because of where he felt at that particular time. What's it been like for you to kind of, as you watch him grow as a head coach, this really being 1 year into this as far as the numbers of games that he's coached, a little bit more than that? What's it been like for you to get to know him?
You know what? And the game he ran by me was Oklahoma State, and I was all for it. We were down 14-0, and I was all for him going inside on that one. But you know what? Generally, when you do that at halftime, these guys are in such a hurry to get in and to work on what they need to do at halftime to get ready to play the second half. And I asked him a question, and I almost feel bad asking him the second one because he's so he's so colorful in his comments and to the point, and I find myself mesmerized just listening to him explain what happened in the first half, explain what they need to do better. I mean, he is so thoughtful and into the ball game, and spends more time with me in that interview than any coach that I've ever done. And I find myself sometimes wanting to kind of shove him on and say, don't you need to go on inside? But at the same time, if you listen to him, you just get mesmerized with his comments and his commentary on what's happened. And he's such a smart guy that keeps his head in the game throughout and is very calm about it. It's really impressive, Smoak. It really is.
So is he a Jedi? What would you call it? We've kind of had this. He can go from Jedi to Bruce Lee to Socrates to Plato, and name them all in between to the Berenstain Bears comic books or kids books.
Yeah, I mean it's unlimited. I mean he is multi-talented in every regard, and I need to go get Berenstain Bears so I can keep up. It's been so long since I read that to my grandkids. I need to go back and refresh myself so I can keep up with some of these comments.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ricky. Appreciate your time. Good luck with the trip to Manhattan. Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, played with Washington in the NFL, sideline reporter for Baylor with us. So he and J.J. Joe have given us some great segments and insight throughout the year, throughout this football season. J.J. joins us tomorrow, in fact, at 4:30. When we come back, Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhodes, next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.